Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I want to talk about my food sensitivity and what that feels like. This one is a little bit more complicated because food sensitivity also has like a lot of subcategories. Basically, you could be sensitive to sugar, like that would be a high amylose diet. You could be sensitive to oxalates, which I did do a video on that as well. And then there's also SIBO, SIFO, and histamine intolerance. So I think this will be sort of a general food sensitivity video, and then I will do another one more specifically about like dysbiosis, which would be SIBO, SIFO, and how that contributes to histamine intolerance. Um, because those all kind of seem to go together, and I don't know. I just think it deserves its own video because it actually happened at a different time. I've had food sensitivity from the beginning, but the histamine intolerance came later. So you can be sensitive to foods, and some foods can be causing inflammation in your body, but you won't have SIBO or SIFO or histamine intolerance, which all seem to kind of come together. Um, so it's kind of a bit of a complicated, it's a complicated dynamic, but I think it deserves its own video. So I just want to talk broadly about my food sensitivity. Um, I feel like I've had issues probably my entire life, and I think many of us, regardless of any illness, even people that are totally healthy, are sensitive to things like milk. I think milk is probably the number one offender, and that's what a food sensitivity is. You either are like lactose intolerant, you get like diarrhea or that kind of thing, or you get constipated. I was actually the type of person that would get constipated with, drinking milk. Um, and so I noticed that when I was in college, I can't remember if that was before or after the onset of my other symptoms, but I think I kind of was already predisposed to this kind of sensitivity. I think I have some kind of genetic predisposition or probably already had inflammation to begin with, because I've always been sort of sensitive to milk, to caffeine and coffee. So that's what a sensitivity would be when you kind of overreact to something. So I started drinking like Lactate in college, which is lactose free milk. And then over the years, eventually had to eliminate milk altogether. Then I switched to like soy milk, almond milk, coconut milk, and eventually, little by little, had to eliminate every single one of those. Soy is a common allergen and can cause, I guess, like hormonal stuff. Almonds are high in oxalates, and coconut milk can be high in histamine because it is a nut. Technically, it's a nut. So little by little, you just the inflammation starts to grow in your body, and you become intolerant to things. Um, so sugar is one of those things. Sugar is a big inflammatory thing. If your body is normal, if you're a healthy person, you can deal with sugar. It's still not good to have high quantities of sugar, and we know that. And that's become kind of a big thing here in the U.S. that people need to reduce their sugar consumption and their carbohydrate consumption because those are very inflammatory foods. Even if you don't become sensitive to those foods, they will cause other issues in your body that are inflammatory, such as like diabetes. I don't know if that's inflammatory, but it will cause other conditions, high blood pressure, obesity, things like that. But in my case, I reacted immediately to the food and to the sugar content. My stomach reacted to it. The onset of this was I want to say it was very, very gradual. Um, like I said, I started with mild sensitivities to milk and stuff like that. And then over the years, I would start having these episodes that now looking back, I can see that they were episodes, but they would happen kind of far apart, and I didn't know why. Um, I remember one time, I at my first full time job, once I started working in an office, we went out to dinner, to lunch or something together. Like it was some kind of a thing that they did, and I think I had just gotten hired. And my favorite food of all time was just pasta. Anything pasta, spaghetti, fettuccine, anything with just lots and lots of carbs. I have always been a fanatic of carbs. And I ordered, I think, like a fettuccine, and I think we were like at California Pizza Kitchen or something. And their food is like, lots of pasta, lots of carbs, very seasoned, cheese, everything. So I was having like a highly, highly inflammatory dish without even knowing it. Because at the time, I still didn't know that there was anything wrong with me. I remember I was eating, and all of a sudden I felt like really nauseated. I felt like I was going to throw up. And I've had issues with anxiety since I was a kid. And I mean, to be honest, I think back now and I wonder if those really were issues with anxiety or if I was actually having stomach issues. I may have had this issue since I was a kid where I just would eat something and it would bother my stomach, and I registered it, or I was told that it was anxiety. And so I started feeling anxious, started feeling nauseated and anxious, and I excused myself to go to the bathroom. And I was waiting for it to pass, and it just wasn't passing, and I was just in the bathroom and I was like, what is this? What's going on? Like, it's just a panic attack. I went back out, sat at the table, and started feeling sick again. And I was like, oh, I forgot my sunglasses in the bathroom. I got to go get my sunglasses. So that was one episode, that episode came right on the heel, like right before my oxalate issues. If you haven't seen that video, watch that video. And it came probably a year before my light sensitivity problem. So I was already showing these weird inflammatory, kind of like an out of control inflammatory response, but I didn't know what it was. I think eventually the nausea calmed down because I somehow made it through the dinner or through the lunch, and we went back to the office, and I didn't go home. I powered through it, and life continued as usual, I guess. Another episode that I had was, and I had an episode like that, substitute teaching later on, where I again had this weird nausea and I didn't know, I couldn't put the pieces together. And there was this other episode where I was actually, I think I was already fully disabled at this point. I think I even had the light sensitivity problem, or I was getting there. No, I think it was shortly before the light sensitivity issue. My husband and I were doing grocery shopping, and I was hungry, and so I got a Larabar. I don't know if they have these all over the country. A Larabar is like a health food bar, and I think they use that term very loosely. And they usually have like fruit and I don't know. It's just like a to me it's just junk food. Now that I look back, it's just junk food. And this one was the peanut butter and chocolate Larabar. And I got one because we were there at the supermarket. I bought one and I ate it on the way home. And it happened very, very quickly. I mean, the nausea hit me. It actually, no, it became stomach cramps, like lower abdominal cramps, like I was going to get diarrhea. But they were so strong. I went into the bathroom and I was like holding onto the towel rack. They were so strong that they were making me nauseated. That's how strong the cramps were. And I was just like, what is going on? And so I didn't know whether to sit on the toilet or kneel by the toilet. It literally was both at the same time. And I think I did get diarrhea from that. And again, this goes back to the food sensitivity. Food sensitivity can cause constipation, but it can also cause diarrhea. It causes nausea, vomiting, everything. So I never ate that again. I will not go near a Larabar. And eventually I just had relentless nausea all the time. Like I was just having nausea, GERD, reflux. I was just having, it was constant. I would wake up in the morning nauseated. I would eat and it was like, why am I feeling this sick? And I am someone that does not deal with nausea very, very well. So this was a nightmare. And then eventually I had, the muscle stiffness in my trunk, and I knew I had to see a doctor. I was like, I need to do something. And eventually I found my way to my Lyme literate doctor. Immediately she put me on a low amylose diet, low amylose allergen free. So you have to eliminate sugars, eliminate carbohydrates, which I already kind of had done because I had been on a candida diet for a long time. But you also eliminate all allergens, which would be soy, dairy, wheat, whatever other allergens there are. At this point, I was not on a low histamine diet or anything like that. I was still eating, I could still eat things like broccoli, asparagus, and not really have too many issues, or at least I wasn't noticing too many issues. And it took a few months. It took a few months for the nausea to die down. And it was really bizarre. Like my doctor even told me, she said, I can't do anything else with you. She said, until you've done this diet, and until, I mean, she was watching to see how I was doing over those months. She couldn't put me on antibiotics for Lyme disease. She couldn't do any other kind of treatment. She said, you got to do this diet first, and then we'll take it from there. So I've been on this diet ever since. It's been like a decade that I've been on this diet. And again, eliminating even more foods. At this point, I was on an oxalate diet. I was on a low oxalate diet. I was on a, now on this low amylose, allergen-free diet. And so that eliminated a lot of food. And every now and then, obviously, I would cheat. And I would notice with certain things that I would cheat with, I would develop pain. So, for example, if I have gluten or wheat, like some kind of bread, I will get a headache. I will notice I get a headache, like pretty quickly, like within 24 hours of eating it. Dark chocolate will cause like some joint pain and that kind of thing. So I would notice that it would cause me body pain, which for whatever reason I hadn't noticed it before. I don't know if maybe my stomach was just so overwhelming that I wasn't noticing that I was having pain in my body, because I didn't remember that. Like my big issue was I was having constant, persistent nausea, GERD, all of that. And so it took months. I think it was 6 months, 5 or 6 months, but before she actually attempted to do anything else with me. And, once those symptoms died down. And that's inflammatory. That's an inflammatory response. You're overinflamed. She told me sugar is highly, highly inflammatory, which means alcohol is also insanely inflammatory. Alcohol is like dropping a bomb of inflammation into your body. So I was restricted from all alcohol, which at that point I probably couldn't even tolerate anyways. I was restricted from all alcohol, restricted from having sugar, very, very limited with fruit. But I would notice if I would eat fruit, like say, for example, a red delicious apple, which is kind of like the sweeter types of apples, right away I would break out. I would have like acne. I would get like a big pimple. So I knew that there was something to what she was saying. There was some kind of inflammatory response and also like a dysbiosis type of response, which I will talk about in another video. So that's my food sensitivity. Let me know if you're sensitive to anything and if you've tried this kind of diet. I know that diets like this, it is a variation on the candida diet, which I kind of was already doing. It's just more restrictive. But I know that there are a lot of people that have had very good results with a low sugar diet. And it's helped their skin, it's helped their energy, and it's helped other issues that they've had, chronic infections. I know that reducing your sugar intake can relieve like chronic like yeast infections and BV and things like that. And I actually recently had a gynecologist tell me, in order to prevent like vaginal infections, try to keep your sugar to a minimum. And I was like, my sugar is at a minimum. Like I can't get any lower than what I'm at right now. So I will, in my next video, I will address SIBO, SIFO, and histamine, and I will show you the differences, because there are differences. And these two sensitivities happened years apart. I developed more sensitivities over time. And of course, the underlying cause of all of this is inflammation. It's just constant, growing, evolving inflammation in the body. So please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for that video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.